You're listening to DruidCast episode 219.
Yesterday has vanished into dust, and the cast iron chains they put in place have long since turned to rust. Oh, crocodile tears on the tissue of lies, when it's clear that you just don't care. Let them come if they want to, like thieves in the night, but they better come prepared. Well, it's been a long time coming, and the road was tough and long. If you still don't know what freedom is, you'll miss it when it's gone. Hey, you're gonna miss it when it's gone. Hey! The lessons of the past were soundly ignored. Oh, I was such a fool. When I tried to speak out, I was shown the door by some guy who was quoting rules. Well, you had the chance to make your stand, but you let the time slip by. If a means to an end is your master plan, you're in for a big surprise. Well, it's been a long time coming, and the road was tough and long. If you still don't know what freedom is, you'll miss it when it's gone. Hey, you're gonna miss it when it's gone. Hey! Far away, like a dream within a dream, and the games they play are never what they seem. Yeah. Woo. Far away, like a dream within a dream, and the games they play are never what they seem. Well, it's been a long time coming, and the road was tough and long. If you still don't know what freedom is, you'll miss it when it's gone. Hey, you're gonna miss it when it's gone. Hey! When it comes to the front door, bold and stark, love flies out the window. Now you're down in the dark with a mad dog's bark, with the cold hard earth as a pillow. Well, take my soul, trade it in for a pocket full of crew. I drew up the plans, I tried to be good, but they took away my tools. Well, it's been a long time coming, and the road was tough and long. If you still don't know what freedom is, you'll miss it when it's gone. Hey, you're gonna miss it when it's gone. Well, it's been a long time coming, and the road was tough and long. If you still don't know what freedom is, you'll miss it when it's gone. Hey, you're gonna miss it when it's gone. Hey!
Hello my friends, and welcome to DruidCast episode 219. I am your host Dave the Bard, and DruidCast is brought to you on or around the 20th of the month by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. If you want to find out more about membership to the Order and our courses, you can do that at our website, which is at druidry.org. Opening the show, you heard the new single from my bardic buddy James J. Turner called Long Time Coming. What a song. As ever, thank you for sending your songs in, James. Another absolute belter there. Thank you so much. This month's Talky Bit is with Phil Woodward, also known as Badger, from the Morris Side Blackthorn Ritualistic Folk. I was browsing my latest edition of 40 Times when I saw these amazing photographs and an article all about the side. So I contacted them through their Instagram page and invited them on the show. And one of their side happened to be an old friend of mine I hadn't seen for years. So we will be led into that interview by the musicians of the side. and there will be 2 more tunes throughout the chat. So grab your cuppa and settle in for a journey through ritual, dance, folklore, and the crossover between old heathen gods and druidry.
The Talkie Bit.
So I'm here on Zoom after looking at the latest Fortean Times that thudded through my door and landed there. I opened it up, and on the cover there was a picture of what looked like a Borden Morris or something like that, called the Blackthorn Ritualistic Folk. So I opened the book up and I read this article. The pictures were amazing, showing these incredible, almost like Wicker Man pictures of rituals in dance and dress. And I thought, I've got to contact these people. So I found them on Instagram, and I contacted them with a private message. And then I get contacted by an old friend of mine who is in the group that I had no idea about, Phil, who is on Zoom with me right now. So, hello, Phil. It's been a while. We've said I haven't seen you for a number of years, but here you are in the Blackthorn Ritualistic Folk as a dancer.
Absolutely. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
It's been a few years, and yes, my Morris style has definitely changed since we last met.
Yeah. Well, it's great to see you, mate. It's great to see you.
Too, mate.
So the Blackthorn Ritualistic Folk are, I guess, they are a Morris side of. Is it team or side or group?
Yeah.
Or all of the above?
Yeah, it's all pretty much interchangeable.
Right.
We describe ourselves as a ritualistic folk group, and
Right.
the dancing is obviously it's the focus of our gatherings, but we try to be a bit more than just the Morris side. Yeah. So
tell me, what is the Blackthorn Ritualistic Folk? What are they?
So we are a group of dancers, singers, musicians, ritualists who get together and celebrate the pagan wheel of the year, as well as a couple of we do a wassail every year as well. We're about to do a local apple day, which is because we're based in Hereford. There's fairly large cider connection, I must say. And so, yeah, that's what we do. We gather together, we make performances that incorporate dancing, singing, and a ceremony for the season.
For the season. Now, you say Morris to some people, and they will think of Cotswold with the handkerchiefs and the bells.
Yes,
They might think of, I don't know if it's a modern term, but Bedlam Morris, like the Wild Hunt Morris used to be with their masks. And obviously Border Morris, which I guess you say are the ones with the sticks.
Yes, yeah.
So what are the Blackthorn ritualistic folk? Which tradition are they?
Well, I guess we would mostly fall into the Border style, although we do also have some Molly dances, we have an amazing girl who does an Irish jig, and we are currently learning rapper dancing as well. So we have like a broader style than just Border Morris.
Right.
Yeah. So it's and the dances we do are, I think, all bar one are self-written as well. We come up with dances to honor a certain theme or a certain piece of folklore. Most of our dances are based in Herefordshire folklore. So more than a Border side, certainly not a traditional Morris side.
No, no.
Definitely not a hanky or a bell in sight.
Okay. And how long have you been going? What was the inspiration behind the formation of it as well?
So it was formed in October 2019 by our two sort of leaders, what I call leaders. We don't have squires and things like other sides. So it was the inspiration of those two people. One of whom, Jamie, who actually built the Darkest Oozer mask that's quite prominent in a lot of our videos. And he went round to various sort of Border Morris events and was obviously very popular. And one of the other members was, I believe, was a Cotswold Morris dancer at the time. And I think they had the vision of something that was more than just a Morris side, that was more performative and more immersive for people coming to watch us. So say October 2019, and I'm sure if you remember back to that time, I was just before things got crazy for a little while. So obviously it took a little while to get things off the ground, but once they did, things grew very, very quickly. And I saw them on Instagram. I live in Gloucestershire, so it's a fair trip. But I said to my wife at the time, I'm thinking of joining this group. I said, like, the two conditions being, it's got to be less than an hour's drive away, and I'm only going to do it if I can have the badger totem, because I'd had a connection with badger for a long, long time. And so Ness pulled out the maps on a phone and said, well, that's 57-minute trip. So, okay, that works. Yeah, that works. And so I contacted Jamie and we had a little chat. I went along to see them. They performed at Snodhill Castle for Midsummer the year I joined. I think it was Midsummer 21. And the castle's an old Mott and Bailey type castle, and there's still some ruins up on the top there. And we sort of got there, and it was all very, very, dark and mysterious, and everybody was very serious. And the next thing that happened, we had a bagpiper, Simon, who I didn't know was there, but he was up in the castle. And so the performance started, it all went a bit quiet, and this piper struck up and it was actually quite moving. It was like, yeah, this is what I want to be doing. I really, I really felt that calling then. So yes, I joined in time to do the next performance.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. Yeah.
yes,
Wow. So it must have been quiet early 2020, I guess. And let's start this Morris side. Oh, and then we have the pandemic.
yes, yeah,
So you joined in 21.
yeah.
Um, And you mentioned the mask. I've got to talk about the masks and your general look as well. When describe if somebody was to sit at their home, whether they're in the UK or Europe or America or Australia, wherever they're listening to this, try and describe what they would see if they came to one of your dances, maybe.
Well, firstly, it depends which one it is, because obviously the setting has a big. We're very lucky. We have a very good relationship with a local cider farm, who've actually allowed us to build a stone circle on their land. And so that's if you come to a performance there, you'll come and you'll get your nice pint of cider in the barn down at the bottom and walk up to the top of the hill and be greeted by a stone circle. And you'll probably have some flags. We had for midsummer, we'd had a lovely midsummer pole up, and a little bit of a stage area for the band, who are a very important part of the side. We've got an excellent band, and you'll then be greeted by what at first glance might look like your average border side. We do wear all black, we wear tatter coats, all pretty similar. We are only individual bits of kit are usually the headwear, which is always either a subtle or not so subtle in some cases nod to our totem, our individual totems. So along with that, we will at various times of the year have different beasts roaming around and different. So the darkest Oozer it's due to make his appearance soon, so he normally comes out of Samhain with and obviously we've got I was going to say a Mary, but it's not really a Mary. It's called Winter Philip, and it's a beautiful big blue horse's skull that comes out at this time of year. So yeah, but then we have Black Vaughan is a nod to a Hereford story of a black bull. Yeah. So it's depending on where you are, what time of the year it is, you'll be confronted.
Wow.
By various beasts and people.
Amazing. So the horse's skull in a Welsh tradition would be the Mary Lloyd or the Mary Lwyd.
Yes.
You called it the Winter Philith, which is an old English name, isn't it? Is it winter full moon? Is that what it means? Winter Philith?
Yes. Yeah. So,
yeah. Okay. So the horse comes out at the winter full moon. Is that, or is born at the winter full moon?
Yeah. Exactly.
Beautiful, amazing. I bet that's fantastic under the full moon. Just see this horse's skull dancing around.
Yeah.
Some might say we're strange if that's not a kind of conversation you can have on a Sky Sports pub, is it?
No, I think strange is possibly one of the things that's been leveled at us. Yeah. We've been called strange. We've been called a cult. We've been called many things. But,
I bet. Yeah, because I remember talking to Robin Williamson on the podcast years ago. And we were talking about him, the band, the Incredible String Band, and his bardic stuff. And I remember saying to him something along the lines of, I'm quite jealous of the Celtic nations for your Celtic music and all of the, the traditions you have. And he said, well, I'm jealous of the English tradition. And I said, what have you got? What do you mean? And he said, well, your country dance tradition is huge. Yeah. And that sent me down a rabbit hole, and I found Morris On, the old album Morris On by Ashley Hutchins.
Yeah.
And it introduced me to music by Martin Carthy and Dave Swarbrick and those Morris tunes. And I think I must have gone off to Hastings Castle, to the Hastings Jack and the Green. And sure enough, it's just the most massive thing. You know, it seems that every all these towns and villages have their different dances, like the Abbots Bromley horn dance and the coconutters and all these different traditions from all around the country. But most, I think I could honestly, hand on heart, say that the most English people don't even know they exist, or they think they are very quaint little Sunday lunchtime things outside a pub, you know, in a country pub or something like that.
Yeah.
But obviously to you, to a side I have here, which is the Mythago Morris, a local side here. There was Hunter's Moon Morris here for a long time, but they sadly broke up. And so for you, it's much more about the spiritual connection to the turning of the seasons through song and through dance.
Yes.
And you mentioned your band. Tell me a little bit about the band. What instruments do they play, and where do the tunes come from? You say they're not traditional, but who writes them, and how do they become dances?
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of the tunes are traditional folk tunes, but our band isn't a traditional folk band. So we have, in my mind, I'll go from right to left. So we have a double bass and a cello and 2 violins and a couple of whistle players, various drummers, guitar. I hope I'm not leaving anybody out. So the sound of our band is a much more traditional band sound rather than a Morris sound.
Mm-hmm.
We also have some instruments like jahikus and a couple of other things that I don't even know the name of, but have some very interesting sounds. And our bands are very accomplished musicians individually as well. You know, we're very, very lucky. We've had some amazing musicians come. So it sounds very different to what you would expect a normal Morris band to sound like. Yeah, so there's no accordions.
No accordion. I mean, that's quite a jump.
It is, yes, yeah. But it does add a real sort of depth to the sound, and it makes it. And we have, you know, the band play tunes and songs. We have some, singers who are just amazing singers. You know, so it's we have lots of.
So your singers on one of your videos, they're singing the old. Well, it's not old actually; it's quite new. It's the Magpie song that was recorded by the Unthanks, written by old Davy Dodds back in the day.
Davy Dodds, yeah.
And so are those voices? I think that looks like it's in some kind of cave system that you did a dance in on the video. So last year we generally don't dance with other sides. That's one of our other sort of differences. We put on performances, and we do everything ourselves, and we don't dance in pubs or anything like that. You know, we're more likely to be found up on. We'll appear on Hay Bluff and dance on the side of the mountain up there. You know, but yeah, last year the Cotswold Druid Order invited us to perform at their Imbolc celebration in Clearwell Caves. Wow.
And that was amazing. Then they invited us to dance at Midsummer at Stonehenge. So we actually got to perform inside Stonehenge in the circle, which was that was quite an event as well. And then later on in the year we did the Butser event with the Viking boats, where we danced with Mythago, which was absolutely
okay.
Yeah. So that they were lovely people as well. So it was really nice to actually dance with another side for once.
Yes, we have 3 Mythago members in our grove.
Yeah.
So, well, I think they're cut from the same stuff as your group, to be honest with you.
Yes, yeah. They're sort of their way of performing Morris rather than just doing dances. Yeah, I think that's probably within the Morris world. I think that's probably the closest we get to any other sides.
Yeah. So you have your music, you have your musicians, you're at this site, whether it's the stone circle or a cave or something like that, and there are these masks or of creatures and the oozer or and that kind of thing. And then, of course, the music may start, and in comes the dancers. Are the dances traditional, or are they also written to the music?
Yeah, we've written, I think, all but one of our dances. One dance, Black Nag, I think is a traditional country dance that's been adapted.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, I think they're pretty much all dances that we've written ourselves.
And how does that happen? I mean, how many dancers are there in the group, roughly? You know, I mean,
Well,
obviously
we've got around 50 members, including the band.
Wow.
Yeah, it's yeah, and we recently took on a few extra members, so we wanted to be able to dance multiple sets of dances, so we took on some extra members, and yeah, the waiting list was quite astounding. And especially for myself, coming from a Cotswold background, where you're lucky if you can attract new members at all. It was quite a thing to have so much interest. It was lovely.
Well, I hope you be prepared for more after being in 14 times.
Yes. This
and on here, of course.
Of course, yeah. This is the thing. Yeah, the way our performances work, we've got a couple of MCs who do an amazing job introducing everything and keeping everything flowing, and performing sort of ceremony between the songs and dances as well. So the ceremony is always, a big part of the performance.
And is it different each year, or is it the same ceremony and same dance if you go from Samhain to Samhain to Samhain, for instance?
The ceremonies are generally different. And again, depending, the Yule, some of our performances are quite sort of private as well. We don't do all the performances public. Like Yule last year, I think was just friends and family.
Right.
And I led the ceremony for that. So that was probably had a bit more of a heathen flavour than some of the other stuff we do. Not all of our members are practicing pagans. Some are. We don't make any sort of rules about what people can or can't. Nobody has to be a pagan to join, and we're quite sort of happy to be inclusive and of whoever comes. If it's much more about personality and fitting in and ability, of course. Yeah. So yeah, we have we normally have an aim to dance. The last dance maybe is it's starting to get dark, because we've got some dances that involve fire as well, which is always fun.
I saw on the video on your YouTube there's some fire with like 3 branded sticks and things. Is that all part of your group as well? That kind of fire dancing?
Yeah, I think that was possibly. I must confess I haven't seen the 40 Times article yet, but
okay.
Yeah. So, but that's probably one of our dancers dances with flaming antlers.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's quite a sight.
Cool. I bet.
We have fire breathers and all sorts of stuff going on as it starts to get dark.
Amazing. And is there an intent to the dance? Is like if you were to say head out to Imog to do your ritual and your dance, is it a celebration or could some of these seasonal dances, are they even invocations of like inviting the spirit of the season back maybe or something like that?
Yeah, I think because our dances do change throughout the year. So, the Green Man comes out at the, sort of probably about Imbolc. And so dances, they have a seasonal flavour. We honour the seasons through our dance and through the songs and tunes that we perform as well.
Yeah, right. What about, are there any kind of particular events that stand out in your mind as memory? You've mentioned the bagpiper in the castle. I mean, that would make everybody's hair stand on end of
Oh,
just,
absolutely.
any others that spring to mind?
Oh, there's so many. Everyone has something so special about it. I mean, some of our performances are bordered on festivals. We'll have several bands play afterwards and stuff. So some of them, when the amount of work that goes into our performances, I must say, some of the people we've got are so talented and so hardworking. They put so much effort in, and once you've practiced, we practice every week. Once a performance is over and you can see everyone sat around a fire sort of singing and just having had the best time, that is often the fondest memories I have. But yeah, so things like we danced at a place called Froome Court it was last year for Samhain, and that just went so well. It was just like a lovely audience, but one of our members, because we always build an altar for the performance, and I think that was probably the first year people bought photographs of family members that they'd lost and put on the altar. And like personally for me, having been a heathen and an ancestor worshipper, really for so long, like for me, that was so deeply moving, to actually put on a big performance and feel it was, genuinely in honor of not just the season, but also, people's ancestors. That was a beautiful, beautiful day. I enjoyed that one.
Amazing. So I'm still quite intrigued as to how you create music and dance that potentially could incorporate maybe 15, 20 people all doing different steps. I'm sitting here at the moment recording the Fourth Branch album, and it's just me. And it's because it's just me. I feel it's a lot easier. I haven't got to control anybody else or include everybody else. But how does that come about? If you wanted to create a new dance for the summer solstice, for instance, what's the kind of, how does that work within the group?
So literally, we're just working on our latest new dance now, and it's called Beating the Bounds. Okay. So you can imagine sort of the theme of the dance. And literally, one of our members sat down with a piece of paper, and probably in their front room, and formulated the dance.
Wow.
And the way it works, it's for 4-person dance, but you can dance multiples of 4, so as many as you like. And it's literally bring it to the band and say, look, this is the dance I've written. Can we come up with a tune for this? And then it's just a case of step by step practice until we've all got it. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's a lovely creative process, and it's lovely to be part of something with so many, really creative people.
And although you say that, you don't need to have a pagan leaning to become part of the group. I'm sure it must influence most of the people in the group. If not the sort of spiritual religious angle, certainly the folkloric angle that comes with it.
Yes.
There
Yes,
must be,
absolutely.
otherwise it's what gives you a passion for this kind of thing in the first place, isn't it? The
Yes,
folklore
definitely.
that goes with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I think we're very lucky in Herefordshire. We've got, the legacy of people like Mary Ella Leather and Alfred Watkins, and and Herefordshire is still quite a rural county as well. So, the folklore. We've actually danced at Kilpeck Church on the Green, where the famous Sheila gig is. And so all that kind of folklore informs what we do, and it's what we celebrate. It's that sort of rural folkloric wheel of the year that informs how we perform. And so it doesn't matter if you identify as a pagan or a Christian or anything or nothing. It's the celebration of that time and place is far more important than who you're doing it for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there is such a magic that comes with dance and music to even witness it. We had the Anderida Morris dancer, our Lunasa ritual at the Long Man of Wilmington, and they add such depth and excitement, and it's like the air is stirred up by it. Do you know what I mean? That's all I can say. It's like you can stand in a circle very still and you can say the words, and often that can be enough. But suddenly, when you introduce something like a dance, when people know what they're doing in those dances, it can absolutely, it's almost like the cone of power in the Wiccan tradition, where you're dancing in a circle and it raises that energy up.
Yeah.
Do you feel that within your group when you're doing those dances?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. And I think that goes back to what I was saying about often it's like at the end of the performance when you feel that, it feels literally, to me, it feels like we build an energy, we raise an energy and we build it and carry that through the performance, carry it through, particularly through the ceremony.
Yeah.
And then sort of, send that energy out. And I think, whether that energy is directed at honoring the local place or the time of the year, or whether it's in some cases maybe more personal and it's directed towards, your personal gods, which, in my case, that's always a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's definitely the point of what we do is raising that energy. And
yeah. Can I talk to you about your personal path for a little bit, Phil? I know I didn't tell you I wanted to, but we did talk earlier about the combination of heathen gods within Druidry, for instance. And I've known you at Druid events over the years, but your handle is always Woden's own, know. So how? Tell me. I think it would intrigue a lot of people as to how you work with those two traditions within your own personal path. Was that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of history then. So I was early 80s. I discovered the runes because I am old, and very much that was back in the day when everyone called themselves Odinists in those days, and I don't think you're allowed to call yourself that anymore. It's got some quite dodgy connotations nowadays, but it was in those days. I knew every other one in the country. There was people like Pete Jennings and people, and so as it was a very rigid spirituality in those days. It was very very. This is how that people joke about the religion with homework, and it was, but that's how it was. And I got into the runes. I would say I was contacted by Odin, and then practiced that for years and years, but I felt it was I always felt it was a little bit stifling and a little bit too rigid for me. I came across Philip Shallcross and Brian Bates have both written about sort of this idea of incorporating the sort of Anglo-Saxon and Norse gods into Druidic practice. And that's what struck a chord with me. That really, so suddenly it didn't have to be performing a bloat with a prescribed way. Suddenly it had given me permission to stand on top of a long barrow with a drum and scream, which is and that sort of let something out of me that, obviously what I was searching for. So I think for me, it's been an element of Druidic practice, or the Norse and Anglo-Saxon gods inform my Druidic practice. So I was lucky enough to spend a cycle of Emma Restler Bobcat's perennial Druidry course. I actually worked that with Bobcat for a year or so, and that obviously that I learned a lot through that. I'm actually facilitating that with a handful of Blackthorn members as well. So some of us are going through that as a side thing to Blackthorn. So because we're all very sociable as well, we get on outside of Blackthorn as well. But yeah, so so Odin has always been there and hopefully always will. And but yeah, it's a much freer and much more informed way of working.
Yeah, and I can't imagine. I can imagine the old ancestral, English or Norse traditions. Not that I don't suppose they stood around looking very serious. I think there was a lot of drum banging and chanting and drinking, probably, to be honest.
And dancing, dancing, definitely.
And dancing. Yeah.
I think recently I saw a program that had some sort of traditional African dancers on, and they were dancing with hankies, and it sort of made me realize how, when you go around the world, there's only so many ways you can dance. Absolutely. And if it's what you're dancing for is going to inform the way you dance. So I think there's a very sort of bottom line to what we do.
Yeah. We were talking earlier about that I'd lost my parents over the last few years, and you have too, by the sounds of things as well.
Right. Yeah.
And when they both became very ill, I started dreaming of a woman with cats, surrounded by cats in a feathered cloak. Wow. I didn't know who she was. I had no idea who she was, but she was constantly in my dreams during that period. And then when I took Oscar for a walk, there were two crows who just would walk along beside me, and I just became aware that other spirits were knocking on my door, and I think these were the ancestral spirits of my parents, particularly my father's line, probably coming to welcome him home. Maybe, I don't know. But they knew that I was working with them on their transition into their next journey. And I remember listening to this hammering on the door and going, no, you can't come in, because for years and years, all my Druid life, I've been working with these Brythonic gods. And traditionally, everyone tells me you're not going to get on with each other. So you can't come in. And they would not go away. And in the end, I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to open the door. So I flung open the door and they all came thundering through the door. And I think a little invitation must have been sent out when I wrote Thunder's Barrow Hill, to be honest with you. They must have turned their face and gone, oh, look, somebody's writing a song about us, But I think, in walked Bragi, walked straight up to Taliesin, shook his hand and said, "Tell me about your poetry." And in walked Odin, and walked straight up to Ceridwen and said, "I've heard of your Awen brew. Let me tell you of my mead of poetry." And I just looked around and everyone was getting on so well. And it just occurred to me that all of the stuff we place upon these old cultural gods, I guess you would say, it's just the human baggage that is put,
Yes.
that actually, they feel more like they are elemental forces that have been given different names.
Exactly what I was just going to say. That's all. I've always seen the gods in any pantheon as like human expressions of forces of nature.
Yeah.
We all have a thunder god. We all have a god of wind and of rain, but our cultural expressions of that are different, obviously. But when I stand on Bella's Nap in a howling gale at Samhain, no one's going to tell me that there's a difference between Gwyn ap Neath and Woden when that comes howling past. It's just it's just that expression of
the force of nature.
How we see it. Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful.
I walked by the sea for years on the coastal sea here in Sussex. I've even in Sussex, funnily enough, the realm of the old kingdom of South Saxons. I would talk to the coastal sea as Manawydan and the far sea as Clear. Yeah, and when this happened with my parents, I just said, I'm going to try and talk to you now as Njord and as Ran or Aegir, and I would talk to the far sea. And it felt the same. It felt the same. So it didn't. The names were, like I say, language related rather than the spirits themselves. So yeah. So they're all getting on quite well now. And
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I have to say, I thought of you during that period because I thought, well, Phil manages to do this thing, and so maybe I can too. And they guided me through that transition with my parents, and I will be forever grateful, even for particularly actually for the Spirit of Hell, and the guidance that she gave me through that period as well.
Yeah. Oh, how wonderful! Well, next time we meet, we'll definitely raise
a good old chinwag.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
lovely. Well, Phil, how do people find out more about the Blackthorn ritualistic folk if they want to find out more? Where are you?
Well, the best place is Instagram, and if you just look for Blackthorn Ritualistic Folk. But we are on Facebook as well, and we do have a website which has got lovely merchandise on it as well.
I can see your amazing T-shirt.
Yeah. So and Instagram's the best way to find out, about upcoming events, and tickets always sell out very, very quickly.
I'm not surprised. They're going to sell out a lot quicker now, I can tell you that.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, like I say, at some point, we might maybe, do some bigger things, but yeah, at the moment, keeping things, ticketed and nice and intimate and stuff is definitely the way for us to go, I think, at the moment. But
it works. Otherwise, things can get too big. There was a wassail at Middle Farm down near us, and it was wonderful for many, many years. And then it just got so big that it fell over itself and had to stop. They literally had to stop. So yeah, controlling that energy is really useful, I think.
Absolutely, yeah. Although I do remember the year I went to that with our mutual friends Darren and Siobhan. And, yeah, that was there was a lot of mead.
There still is. Well, Phil, thank you for joining me on DruidCast, and much love to your fellow dancers and musicians. Yeah,
having just listened to every single episode back to back, it's been an absolute pleasure to come and talk to you.
Brilliant. Well, you shall join 218 other episodes now. So
fantastic.
There you are. All right, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
soul of this land is my soul. Created and taken from its core, a great cauldron of love and hate forged my being. Its strengths and weaknesses bred my complexities. My fruits are the fruits of this land. My body yearns tastes and textures for its life, taking what it can when it can. But the great consumer must be consumed and return to the land. My face is one of the land's many. To look at it and others is to celebrate nature's diversity. To love or hate it is to be deceived, for the face blocks out what is truly beautiful. My life is the land's life. It gives all I need and will take it back. We should nurture it as it nurtures us. What I do is for the land. My heart is the land's heart. The blood flows round and round, the twisting, turning, circling, never ending. My true heart will never fail. My mind is the land's mind. Thoughts expressed by the land, for the land. A tapestry of consciousness expressed in me. All knowledge coming from the no knowledge within.
It was great to catch up with Phil, and I hope you enjoyed the interview and the music. Such great musicians. That was followed by a poem, The Soul of This Land Is My Soul by Adam Bruff, and the background music was Dark Lake by the wonderful harper Claire Hamilton. But this music means we are approaching the end of the show, but before I go, let's have the results of last month's competition. The prize was a copy of the book Stonelands, and the question I asked was, Fiona's favourite sacred site is also Europe's largest stone circle. What is the name of that site? Well, the answer I was looking for was Avebury, and the first name drawn from the hat. And winner of that amazing book is Rob Dickinson from Derbyshire. Congratulations, Rob. That book will be with you very soon. The prize this month is a copy of Adam Bruff's new book of poetry, one of which you heard just now. And the question I'd like you to answer is, at the beginning of the interview, Phil talked about their dancing horse, which in the Welsh tradition is known as the Mari Lwyd. What is the Old English name for their dancing horse? A word which means the winter full moon. At the beginning of the interview, Phil talked about their dancing horse, which in the Welsh tradition is called the Mari Lwyd. What is the Old English name for their dancing horse? A name which means winter full moon. Quick check on the internet for that, you'll find it. Email your answer along with your full postal address to podcast@druidry.org, and one of you will win that lovely book of poetry. Well, my friends, I would like to wish all of our Southern Hemisphere listeners a joyous Beltane, and for all of us Northern Hemisphere people a sacred and special Samhain. Until next month, my friends, I wish you all peace and blessed be. Goodbye.